All right, welcome. Today, we are going to unpack something that is, believe it or not, the secret engine behind centuries of trade and finance, the negotiable instrument. I know, it sounds a little dry, but trust me, the idea behind it is absolutely brilliant and it literally changed the world. So let's get right into it. I want you to imagine something. It's the 12th century. You're a merchant and you just bought a huge shipment of silk in Venice. Now you have to pay your supplier, who's all the way over in Paris. How on earth do you do that? You can't Venmo them, and carrying a giant chest of gold, that's slow, it's heavy, and it's basically a giant rob me sign for every pirate and bandit between Italy and France. So what's the solution? And that brings us to section 1, a problem of gold. It was just a terrible way to do business. On the seas, you had pirates. On land, bandits. Moving actual, physical money around in the medieval world was just an incredibly dangerous game. For commerce to really grow, people had to come up with a better, safer way. And that better way? Well, it evolved over hundreds of years. You can draw a straight line from their simple solution to a tool you might have today. It all started back in the 12th century, with merchants creating these written payment orders to avoid lugging gold around. Fast forward to the 17th century, and this idea gets formalized into a really powerful legal tool called the Bill of Exchange. And get this, those exact same core principles are what powered the personal check that might be sitting in your desk drawer right now. So let's get into section 2, the paper that pays. What was this game-changing invention? Well, merchants and bankers came up with a kind of promise, a written promise that could travel safely and, for all intents and purposes, act just like money. So here's the official definition, and the keywords really tell you everything. A negotiable instrument is basically a piece of paper that is a payment. But the magic is in that word negotiable. In legal speak, that's just a fancy word for transportable. It means this piece of paper can be passed from person to person, and whoever is holding it has the full legal right to get paid. This isn't just some flimsy IOU, it's way more powerful. To really get how this works, you just need to know the 3 main players in the game. Let's use a check as an example. First, you've got Alice. She's the drawer. She's the one who writes the check, drawing on her funds. She makes it out to her bank, who is the drawee. The bank is the one being ordered to pay up. And finally, she makes it payable to Bob, the payee. See? It's a simple little triangle. Alice orders the bank to pay Bob. Okay, section 3, the rules of trust. So, what is it that makes this piece of paper so powerful? Why would anyone trust it more than a handshake or a simple promise? Well, it all comes down to a really strict set of legal rules. The best way to see its power is to compare it to a regular old contract. Trying to transfer your rights under a normal contract can be a real headache, but with a negotiable instrument, it's easy. You just sign the back and hand it over. But here's the killer feature. A new, innocent holder can take the instrument completely free from any arguments or disputes between the original people. Plus, with a regular contract, you might have to prove that value is exchanged. With these instruments, value is just presumed. The whole system is built for speed and, most importantly, for trust. And that trust is built on these 5 golden rules. You see, for this system to work, there can't be any gray areas. The order to pay has to be unconditional. No ifs, ands, or buts. It's got to be in writing, and it has to be signed. It also has to be for a specific, certain amount of money, and it has to be payable either right away, that's on demand, or at a very clearly defined date in the future. These rules make sure everyone knows exactly what that promise is worth. Which brings us to section 4, passing the promise along. Now, this is where things get really cool. The true genius of these instruments wasn't just in paying someone one time. It was in the ability to pass that promise along, from person to person to person, almost like a dollar bill. So, let's go back to our friends. Alice gave a bill to Bob, but here's the catch. It's not payable for 60 days. Bob's running a business. He needs cash flow now. He can't wait 2 months for his money. With a negotiable instrument, he doesn't have to. He can actually sell that future promise to someone else. We'll call him Charlie, probably for a little bit less than face value, and get his cash immediately. And how does he do that? The mechanism is beautifully simple. It's called an endorsement. All Bob has to do is sign his name on the back of the bill. That's it. That signature is the legal key that transfers his right to get paid over to Charlie, and it allows the bill to continue its journey. Now here's a really important detail. The whole legal system wants to encourage people to accept and trust these pieces of paper. And to do that, it gives special protections to the people who receive them. You see, not every owner is treated the same. There's kind of a hierarchy, and you definitely want to be at the top. And the very top of that hierarchy is this, the holder in due course. Honestly, you should think of this as a kind of legal superhero status. To get this protection, you have to check 3 boxes. You have to have paid something of value for it. You have to have taken it in good faith, which basically just means honestly. And you can't have any idea that there's something wrong with it, like it was stolen or payment was already refused. And the power that comes with this superhero status is, well, it's incredible. This quote looks a little dense, but what it's saying is absolutely mind-blowing. It means a holder in due course can actually have a better right to the money than the person who gave them the instrument. So let's say Bob scammed Alice to get that bill from her. He has what's called a defective title. But if he passes it to an innocent Charlie, who becomes a holder in due course, Charlie's title becomes perfect. Charlie can force Alice to pay him, even though Bob never could have. This rule is the linchpin that makes the entire system work. Okay, so Section 5, from bills to checks. Now, I know this might all seem like some dusty old history, but you are way more familiar with this entire system than you probably think. You can think of these instruments as a little family. The simplest one is the two-party promissory note. That's where one person, the maker, promises to pay another person, the payee. Think student loans or mortgages. Then you have the three-party instruments, which aren't promises, they're orders to pay. The classic bill of exchange is still a huge deal in international trade. And then there's the check for all our everyday payments. You start to see the similarities, right? And here it is. This is the big aha moment. A personal check is just a special, standardized version of a bill of exchange. The drawer is you, the drawee is your bank, and the payment is on demand, which just means as soon as it's presented. All of those centuries of commercial law and tradition are packed right into that little rectangle of paper. All right, final section, why paper promises matter. So let's wrap this all up by looking at the incredible legacy of this system, this idea of transferable trust. So here are the big takeaways from all this. These instruments created a super safe and efficient substitute for carrying around cash. They absolutely greased the wheels of commerce, making transactions faster and easier across huge distances. They brilliantly turned a debt, a promise to pay later, into a transferable asset you could sell for cash today. And maybe most importantly of all, they created a system that protected innocent people, which built the kind of trust you need for a global economy to even exist. Which brings me to one last question for you. We live in an age of tap to pay and instant bank transfers. So is this centuries-old idea of a physical, signed, transferable promise, is it even relevant anymore? Or do those core principles, unconditional orders, clear transfers of rights, and protecting the innocent holder, do they actually live on in the code that's running our entire